Hello, everyone. This is Belinda Carr. Welcome back to the Movers and Breakers podcast, where we dive into the world of construction and explore the stories of people and companies who are shaping the future of our industry. From the latest innovations to the challenges and triumphs of everyday professionals, we bring you the inside scoop of what's happening in construction. Today, I'm speaking with Rebecca Rickwood, founder and CEO of Gement. Thanks for joining us, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here all the way from London.
We haven't met in person, obviously, but I came across your company when I was doing a bit of research on geopolymer cement. Um, and I was fascinated by your background because I couldn't find too much of like your interviews and a little bit of your story, but it seems like you have accomplished so much in a relatively short period of time. I would love to know more about how you got into construction because it seems like you started off more in the chemistry field, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right. So my degree is in chemistry, and really my research with geopolymer started in my last year of university, and we had to select our dissertation title. And I thought one about concrete would be really interesting because it's clearly used everywhere, no matter which country you're in. And it's something that's really, really useful. So I thought spending 9 months researching on this material would actually be something really interesting to me. So I started off researching about geopolymers and its applications and how we can bring it to the UK. And that was how I first got into construction.
But then after you graduated, you took a bit of a detour into the tech industry before you found your way into the construction industry. And that seemed to be a very impactful part of your career because there's certain lessons that you learned while being in the tech field that brought you a different perspective or gave you a different perspective when you joined construction.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So during my time at university, I took up a part-time job to get some extra money, and I was working at a tech company. So when I graduated university, although I had a really amazing time researching geopolymers, I already had that experience working in tech, and there was lots of support available for those wanting to transition in tech, especially for those who had studied scientific subjects or STEM subjects. There were numerous amounts of programs and support available to help transition people into the world of tech, software development, and product. So naturally, it just seemed like a really nice fit.
So when you
And
say support, it's like career advice on how people could use backgrounds that were not related to tech in the tech industry. Like for you, for example, how you could use your chemistry background to find a place in the tech world. Is that the kind of support you're talking about?
yeah, absolutely. So how even if you haven't come from a tech background, you can transition into tech. And the supports were various from sort of 1 day boot camps to internships. So there was a lot of help there available for me, and that's why it seemed just such a natural fit as the university and several other companies such as Google were there to help and support me transition. So after graduating, I did actually go into tech, and I worked in tech up until the pandemic. And it was when the COVID-19 started. Here in the UK, we had a scheme where you could essentially sort of pause your job or your work. And it was a sort of scheme funded by the government. So I was put on furlough, and it was during that time that I decided to start thinking about how I could get into the construction industry and how I can sort of get back, because as I mentioned, those were sort of where my real interests were. It was just that at the time of graduating, there was so much support available to get into tech. It was this very much easy and smooth transition, but I had always had my eye on geopolymers and chemistry, and I really, really enjoyed the research that I did. So it was always something at the back of my head. And when COVID came and people were paused on their jobs, it just seemed like a good time to try and see what I could do essentially with my knowledge and with some funding I had got from the university.
But what fascinates me about that transition that you went through is that you didn't just take up a typical entry-level job in construction. It seems like when you said, okay, I need to move into the construction industry, that's where my true passion lies. You couldn't find the support that you wanted, the support that you got in tech, and you said, I'm going to create this. I'm going to create I found a void that needs to be filled, and I'm going to create a company that fills this void, that provides support to other people who want to transition to the construction industry. That's a pretty bold decision to make. Why did you decide to create that Gement so early on in your career?
Yeah, so I feel like the pandemic really did give me that opportunity to decide to develop and grow my initial research I'd done at university. And it was around that time when I was having a look at geopolymers and how we can bring it to the UK. I started to look at groups for young people or for women or for those from underrepresented backgrounds on to how I can join the construction industry and make some connections. And the really surprising thing I found is that there weren't actually any groups for this. And it was such a shock for me because, as I mentioned in tech,
The
there
support you
was
got from there, yeah.
plentiful support available. There was lots of help. Universities, as I mentioned, Google was there, and I did a program with them. And actually, for construction, I felt quite isolated at times because I was trying to find people that I related to, or just simply some support for new people coming into the industry who didn't really have any connections, didn't really know too much. And there was nothing there at all for me to utilize. So it was kind of really hard actually when I first joined, and it was definitely something that went completely out of my comfort zone. And that's when I decided that how can we grow the construction industry and how can we meet our housing targets? How can we develop new innovation if there isn't really anything there to welcome new people? It's so hard to get in. How can we attract people? And that sort of built the foundations to what we're doing today.
It's very interesting that you point out how can we bring in the people if there's so many barriers to entry, because skilled labor shortage is such a big problem right now. Everyone's talking about it. The problem was identified 5 to 10 years ago, but we kind of sat on our butts and didn't do anything about it. I'm talking about the construction industry as a whole. And now it's a severe problem, but no one has identified issues like you're saying about barriers to entry. Let's bring in people maybe from other industries into construction to fill that void. Um, so let's dive into the three main arms of your business. You have an opportunity arm, a sustainability arm, and a community arm.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so we have three branches of Gement. We have Gement Go, Gement Recruit, and Gement Connect. So Gement Go was our first program that started, and it was really a way to address those barriers that I mentioned about getting into construction. And it was something I developed so that nobody felt as I did when I joined construction, that there was so little help available and I didn't really know where to turn to or who to turn to get basic sort of information about joining the industry. So the Go program really raises awareness of careers in construction. So we work with children in schools and colleges and even universities to show people actually, regardless of whether your interests lie in HR or finance or engineering, you can actually work in construction. And we help to break down these common myths that construction is sort of a bottom level career. And we help people to understand that actually it's a really lucrative industry. Lots of really innovations going on, from concrete to design to architecture. There's so many really cool pathways that people can go into construction. And it's not simply what you may think or what your parents might have told you. So these are not-for-profit programs delivered simply just to help raise awareness of opportunities in construction and break down those common barriers or myths.
And that's the Gement Go program you just described.
Yes.
What does the Gement Recruit program do?
The Gement Recruit program helps to recruit new talent into the industry whilst also keeping existing talent into the industry. So The whole idea of Gement is to be a one-stop shop to increase and attract talent into construction. So we have our not-for-profit programs, and they're all about attracting that talent in. The recruit program is about keeping the talent in the industry, but also attracting new talent. And again, this could be from backgrounds such as HR or marketing or finance, where previously they could have worked in other industries. And I like to take those people and put them into construction.
And the third one is the Gement Connect program. What does that do?
So the Gement Connect program connects communities, connects people, and connects employers all together to help provide a more prosperous construction industry. So it's our newest program. It was only launched last year, and that's in collaboration with the CITB. So that's Construction Industry Training Board. And for any viewers who are not in the United Kingdom, the CITB are sponsored by the Department for Education, which is a branch of the UK government. So this is a program run in collaboration with them, and it's specifically targeted at retaining our construction workforce. So if I can tell you a little bit about the background of this program and where it came from. So in 2018 to 2020, the CITB carried out a study of new entrants in construction and where they were after 3 months. And what they found is that 71% of people had left. So yeah, which is a really, really shocking number. 50% of those people were dismissed and 21% resigned. And when they looked into the reasons why people were dismissed, it was mainly due to soft skills such as attendance, punctuality, work ethic. And when they looked into reasons why people resigned from their job, it was for reasons such as not feeling valued by their employer or feeling like career development was too slow.
These jobs that they identified, we're not talking about like office jobs, cubicle jobs, like architects and all that. You're talking about people out in the field, or is this as the industry as a whole?
We're talking about labour, yes,
Okay.
specifically labour. And I'm sure it's the same in all different countries, but we have our housing targets. We have targets that we need to meet within building. And it's difficult to see how we can reach these targets if 71% of new people are leaving. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've then got people retiring. So people are increasingly leaving construction, and that sort of leaves us with a really big hole of how can we pick up this labour. And that was sort of the foundations of the Connect program. So the Connect program helps to keep people into the construction industry through a variety of retention methods. And sometimes it's really as simple as just a friendly, informal chat that can actually really help somebody. And it's something that I think in an industry like construction and coming from tech, I think it's something like an informal chat can so often be overlooked, especially when we do talk about labour.
Yeah. So you're saying that feeling of isolation is one of the reasons people could leave the construction industry, laborers could leave the construction industry.
Absolutely, because some people want to upskill perhaps, but they're not sure where to find that help. And unlike in other industries, you don't always have a line manager you can ask for help. So sometimes people can leave construction because they're not sure how they can upskill, how they can gain further qualifications. But the reality is that there's so much help out there. Sometimes it just takes a small conversation to really understand how you can get ahead and climb the career ladder.
But how did you identify the problems that blue collar workers are facing? Did you just hypothesize about that, or did you go out into fields and talk to people firsthand?
Yeah, so when we started this program with the CITB, we were given complete creative control about how we were to run the program and manage the program. We were given sort of a set of guidelines that we should follow, but overall, the running of the program was completely under our direction. And one of the things that I was really passionate about is using this funding to provide real lasting impact. So over the course of the past 6 months, really, we were at every single construction site that we could get access to. And we spoke to everybody. We could, not just operatives, but team leaders, site managers, site supervisors, health and safety officers, first aid officers, to speak to them about what would you like to see from this program? If you were just starting out in construction, what support would you like to see from this? What would be helpful for you? And if we're going to be running this program for the next 3 years, what is something that is actually going to be beneficial to you, rather than handing somebody a flyer for them to throw it in the bin in the afternoon? Actually, what's going to create lasting impact, and how can we help to provide a better, more supportive construction industry? So that was actually something that was really important for me. And we didn't have to go about it in that sort of very long-winded way, but it was something that I was very passionate about, because I do really like the construction industry, and I do also see the barriers that the industry faces. So being able to speak to people and finding out firsthand how we could provide support, was really, really important to me.
What did you receive some surprising answers from them?
So our most popular suggestion was to have a monthly newsletter that we could use to check in with people and ask how they were doing, whether that is how they're doing in their personal life, how they're doing in their career, and if they were interested in any training opportunities. So every month we showcase any training opportunities, any upskilling opportunities, and also all the other services that we offer as part of the Connect program. And it's a really nice way to keep in contact with people, because obviously everybody's busy and everyone has their own lives. So having a simple email check-in can be actually a really quick and easy way to identify if there are any problems, but also fix them relatively quickly as well. Our second most popular program were a selection of financial literacy courses. And these cover sort of a 101, if you like, of how to become self-employed or a sole trader in the construction industry. And most of construction really is done being self-employed or being a sole trader. So these courses were really, really important to get people off the ground when they first got their job, to help them then thrive and prosper in construction. And it really is those first couple of months where people need help, such as these courses. So that was another really, really popular option that was selected.
I'm thinking of it as kind of like a classifieds, but a digital version of the classifieds that we used to see from the newspapers, where you provide them, you're the middle person between what they want and all the courses and job opportunities available in the market. Is that what you all are providing through this, like you say, this newsletter?
Yes. So that's part of what we do. That's the newsletter. We also offer a series of mentoring, buddying up, and we also have a concierge hotline as well, which sounds very, very fancy.
Very fancy, yeah.
And it's a support line that people can call to ask any question whatsoever. It doesn't have to be construction related or work related. It could be any problem that they're facing in their personal life, for instance. It could be any problem about upskilling, gaining qualifications. We often get people who come from other countries in Europe and they have construction qualifications there, but they need to convert these qualifications into a British equivalent. So all those sorts of questions, that's what the concierge hotline is designed to help answer. Again, it's another really, really popular service.
But answering those kind of very specific questions requires an in-depth knowledge of construction, of the labor laws and the intricacies of the construction industry. How were you able to build a team to be able to answer those questions? Or is the hotline more of, okay, let me connect you with an expert in this field?
Yes. It's the latter. And that's exactly why the program is Gement Connect, because we connect these people to the help or the training or the mentors that they need. And this is all fully funded as well. It's completely free for the employers, for the staff. It's a fully funded service that people can go to get this help. And we're literally just there to sort of connect the dots, if you like, on how people can access either a mentor, or they can access a financial literacy course, or they can access an opportunity to get more training. And we're sort of there to sort of be a one-stop shop, really.
Okay, that's fascinating. When I was doing a bit of research into your company before this podcast, I saw that a really fascinating statistic, and it said that you all have observed that applications made to the jobs in the construction industry have increased 128% since you rolled out this program.
So that was with our Gement Go program, and that was after delivering one of our workshops to a university in London. There was a study that was done on the amount of people who applied to jobs in construction the year before, and then how many people applied to jobs in construction the year that we did our workshop, and it was a 128% increase. So
That's
that's a really,
incredible.
really exciting statistic, and I think this shows that people are interested in construction, but a lot of people just don't know the opportunities out there, and they don't know actually the innovation that's going on that they could be getting involved in. And that's why our not-for-profit activities are so important. It's not just about giving back to the industry, but it's about providing the industry with tomorrow's talent.
I have to say, when I got a bachelor's and then I got a master's in architecture, and when I joined the construction industry, I was very disappointed by how old school and outdated it was. I was just in I wasn't one of those. I wasn't in a star architect office. I was working just a small architecture and construction offices here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and I kind of had that doom and gloom feeling where, am I just going to be a drafter till I retire? Like, is the construction industry this boring, this unexciting? And because when I joined architecture, I thought I was going to change the world. I thought like design can actually truly help humanity. Of course, that's a little out there, but I had this passion for actually making a difference. Um, but fortunately, after leaving the typical 8 to 5 and looking at alternatives that exist out there, like you're saying, there are legitimate opportunities that are exciting, that are truly like at the bleeding edge of construction. It's difficult to find that. Like I had to start a YouTube channel, start a podcast, talk to people all around the world. I had no assistance in any of that. Like you said, it can be very isolating. There is no help desk to help you find on no hotline that you can call where you can say, I need something more. This is not enough. There has to be something better in construction. And I want to provide more to the construction industry. So it was all this to say that it's been a tough journey for me to get to this point, to get from just a mind-numbing job to what I do now, where I really, really, truly love construction. And I'm so glad that you're able to make the process easier for the next generation of people coming into construction.
Absolutely, yeah, and I really resonate when you say that it can be a very slow and a very rigid industry at times, very slow to change. And I think coming from tech, I really felt that. I really felt how difficult the construction industry can be. But actually, when I sort of looked at that problem, I sort of turned it around on its head, and I thought, this is somewhere that I can provide help, and this is somewhere that I can provide a difference in the industry. And I had a vision of all the possible solutions of what we could do to help construction and to make it more appealing and to make it more accessible. And that actually really fueled me into developing what Gement is now and the list of services that we have. I felt a real passion and I felt a real drive that there's so much potential here, and I can utilize my talents to help provide something better. And I think that was sort of the whole aim of this, is to leave it in a better place than I found it.
That's it's so inspiring to hear you say that. I used to work in an office in San Francisco for a little while after I graduated in 2014. And I saw so many people in architecture leaving and going into the UX UI field in tech firms because the pay was 2 to 3 times more what you would earn at an architecture office. And it was a very easy way to jump. I don't want to say jump ship. There's absolutely nothing wrong if you decide to get out of architecture and move to UX and UI, but maybe to transition from the architecture industry into tech. Like you said, there were people helping them move to a better job, better salary. And I was very tempted to do that. I actually learned UX and UI for a little while, and I interviewed at a company over here. And I didn't get the job. They actually offered me an unpaid internship, and I said I can't do that. I have a bachelor's, master's. I've been studying for 8 years. I can't step back. And I decided to stick with architecture, get into the digital BIM world, and try to find something that I was passionate about in construction. like you're saying, it's a tougher, maybe it's a more difficult path to take, to find that small ray of light when everything is so dark, but it can be a lot more satisfying. Like you're actually helping others in the process. But I really appreciate what you are doing, and I think you're actually making a difference, helping fill the labor shortage in construction, and even like the housing shortage in construction too, because the more people we can bring in, the faster we can hopefully address the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And we already have so many nice case studies of people that we've helped and people who have benefited from the support offered, whether it is somebody who is at their first job in construction and they've been through the care system, so they might not necessarily have parents who they can ask for help to become self-employed, for instance, or sort out banking relating queries. And that's somebody who can benefit from our program.
Wow.
We've worked with people who have been in construction for a really long time, 5, 10 years or so, and then they've ended up having maybe a car accident or something. They've been out of work for 6 to 9 months, and they sort of come out of the hospital and they feel completely lost on how to get back and just starting the world of work again. People like that really benefit. People with learning difficulties as well and getting into construction and learning how they can have mentors and buddies and help on site. So there have been so many good, lovely outcomes from this program already, even the short time it's been running. So yeah, it's been really good to see how many people have sort of stayed in construction because of our courses or because of our help.
That's truly inspiring. I'm so glad you're managing to change so many lives. Um, what's the future of your business? What do you have planned for the rest of the year and the coming year?
What I'd really like to make Gement into is a one-stop shop. So this is where people can learn about construction through our not-for-profit programs, and they can have a look how their talents can be utilized. Again, it doesn't matter if they're not an engineer, for instance, they can still get involved into the industry and they can still be part of it. And I like to have that awareness side of how they can get into construction. Then we have the recruitment side to help them find a job to place them in construction. And then the Connect program, which will then support them into their job and help them thrive and flourish in the industry. And I'd love to see that come to life. So people sort of can come to one company to find everything they need to know about in construction.
I assume it hasn't been easy for you to create this company in an industry that is so maybe resistant to change and maybe unwilling to accept radical new ideas. What advice would you have for another young individual, a female, or who wants to really help the industry in the way you have?
Yeah, well, I think you're right in saying that it can be an industry difficult to change, but we have seen enormous growth in the past sort of 5 years or so. So to anybody looking to get into construction, or if they have an idea of something to change the construction industry, I'd say to go for it, because although it is slower than tech, for instance, there are more opportunities than ever, and there's so much work being done in the last couple of years. We are changing and we're doing it as fast as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on our podcast, Rebecca. I'm excited to see where Gement goes from here and see the change that you'll initiate in the construction industry, not just in London, but across the pond over here too, because we definitely need support and recruitment services like you're providing over there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. It's been great to share what we're doing here. And I know that most of your listeners are based in the US. So hopefully this has given them some ideas of what they can implement in their industries, their companies. And these activities that we do, they don't have to be big steps. A lot of people think to provide support services or to provide educational programs, you might need to hire a whole department or come up with a 10-step strategizing plan, but it really doesn't have to be like this. So if you've heard a really a nice idea from the podcast today, do please take
Run with it.
Take it exactly, run with it. And a lot of the time, it's very, very simple to implement these things, but the return that you get is exponential. So hopefully, this has given you a couple of ideas of retaining workers in construction, but also opening up the opportunities to more people, so that people realize what is out there and the innovation that's out there, and construction might not be what you think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being so inspiring, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me.